Steve Robertson makes an appearance. I may be the most popular person on Gene's page. Me or Zach Arnett. I think the phrase that Steve started using several years ago was keyboard cowboys. He's got a bunch on genespage.com, 247 Sports. I do notice that the posts on me get more views than anybody else except when Steve posts about a commitment in football. So maybe that's a good thing for Steve. I don't know. We are the Out of Bounds Show. Steve Robertson joins us on the Farm Bureau Insurance guest line. Steve, evidently I trigger a mixed bag of emotions on your board.
Yeah, you're a polarizing figure. Congratulations. And join the club in that respect, right? I mean, I think, what's so interesting about that stuff is like the thing that I have learned about that is when a person challenges the narrative, that person is vilified in the eyes of those that struggle with objectivity. I'm not just speaking about message boards, just in life in general.
Right.
If we went through all this, during all the Hugh Freeze stuff and the Flim Flam days and that kind of stuff, it's like anybody that gets out there that doesn't just toe the company line, you're going to get some blowback. And nobody that's ever stood for anything was universally loved. It didn't matter where it goes. And so I always take that when you're getting some blowback on it, maybe you're doing the right thing.
Steve Robertson, genespage.com, the Boneyard Podcast. They may not like this interview, so we got to go through. Basketball has a chance to rebound the next 4 games. Okay, so let's start with that. Georgia, at home, at Missouri, Arkansas and Ole Miss at home. Jans could rip off 4 straight wins. People could feel better. The fried chicken and the ribs and everything else could taste better. I think there are some issues. I think they need more talent, first of all. I thought they were going to be a more talented team. They're not. Steve, offensively, some things have to change. And Richard Williams told me something a while back. He said, people don't realize – he wasn't talking about this team. He said, people don't realize that I actually practiced offense more than defense because of the timing and the cuts and the back cuts and the screens. And, again, you just got to be boom, boom, boom on the offensive end where you don't necessarily have to do that on the defensive end, although when you're doing help side defense and all that. And so I started scratching around, and bottom line, Steve, is I don't think they're practicing offense enough in practice. How about that?
Well, I don't know about that. I do agree with Richard. I mean, a lot of times defense is about athleticism and effort. You're just out there basically. I mean, you got a framework of a scheme you got to play as a part of, especially with help side defense. But yeah, there's a lot more moving parts to an offensive play and things like that. I mean, you teach guys how to get under screens on defense and close out on shooters, and so you're kind of coaching athleticism in that respect. But I think at this point you got to look at it. Yeah, is it time to panic? It's getting close, but I think it's maybe not time to panic, but it's certainly time to be concerned. And State has struggled to play defense, and that's supposed to be the calling card of this program. And you look early on, that was the thing. You said, hey, they're keeping scores down, and they can win game in the 60s, perhaps in the 70s. But if you get in a shootout, you're going to be in trouble. And what happened against Alabama? I mean, I expected Alabama to win the game, but not with that level of margin. And I really thought that the effort level once Alabama got separation was completely unacceptable.
Yeah, they threw in the towel. I don't think anybody expected a Chris Jans team to do that. Why do you think that happened?
I don't know, especially with four senior starters, right? I mean, that's the thing you look at. I mean, these are guys that have been through the SEC wars. They've been in situations where they've gone into somebody else's backyard and had that team and that crowd turn on them in a very big way and been able to overcome it.
Sure.
But you look up and, you're 0-6 on the road. The State's been really good at home and really good on a neutral floor, but true road games has been a real challenge. Now, the NCAA tournament's played on a neutral floor, but if you're going to get there, you're going to have to pick up some road wins along the way to pad the resume because this is a bubble team. And when you start beginning to think about other teams that are similarly situated, you go 0 for the road, you're not going to get the benefit of the doubt.
Steve Robertson on the Out of Bounds show. What are the options? I mean, Hubbard can score from wherever. I think a lot of people just thought he was a three-point shooter. We knew better because he played right over here at MRA. He's got a mid-range game. He can even take it to the glass, depending on what's going on. And Tolu can. Do you think there's something off with Tolu? Do you think it's just he's still trying to come back from injury, and the expectations were because he played so well down the stretch last year that we were going to get that to Tolu as soon as he came back? Or do you think it's something else, Steve?
Well, no, I mean, yeah, he's not 100%. I mean, I'm no doctor, but you can just kind of see, kind of in his countenance and his body language, he's out there giving you everything he's got. And, there were some times, his hands haven't always been the best, that entry pass sometimes isn't always the smoothest of receptions, but, he's doing his best to carry this team. And you need some people around him. You need somebody besides Hubbard and Tolu. In some games, it's Shaquille Moore, and occasionally it's DJ Jeffries. But State has struggled to find a consistent third scorer. Rams Davis had a big ball game, here a few days ago. But it's one of those things you look at. I mean, everybody understands the offense is going to run through Tolu Smith, and there are times that Josh Hubbard can get out and create for you, when it's not there. But outside of that, if you shut down one of those two guys, it's going to be a long night for Mississippi State. And that's the thing in the portal era and the NIL era and the way that people have stepped up to try to help, with the talent level of this team, it's disappointing to be in the situation you are. And, of course, you've had some injuries, and, of course, you got, Murphy, and, of course, now Taylor, who's no longer with the program. Murphy's still around. We're kind of working his way back.
Okay, so what's the deal? Are they going to kiss and make up, or is he going to come back, or are they going to do this dog and pony show, and then there's not going to be any time left with Keyshawn Murphy?
Well, I don't know if they gain anything by playing the dog and pony show. You know what I'm saying? It's like, why, if he's not going to contribute, why would you have him out there? But, he was in uniform Saturday and went through warm-ups, and that's the first time that's happened in a while. But, Taylor's no longer with the team. And what's so interesting, you hear even like in fall that, shortly after he got here, he was ready to go, and it's like then all of a sudden you get into the season and you think, okay, maybe he's going to contribute, and he really didn't. And all of a sudden it goes MIA, and then Christmas break comes, and then, he's with his girlfriend up around Marshall or whatever. And, it's just, I don't know if it's a situation where it was a bad evaluation. I don't know if it's a situation where the kid just didn't like it here, but the reality of it is you go out and you get that guy at the portal, a guy that you're expected to improve your perimeter shooting, and now he's not even here. And so I don't know where the blame on all that lies. It may just be an unfortunate circumstance, but the reality of it is they went out and hit the portal hard to try to find some guys to improve the perimeter shooting, and you've got a freshman that's basically the guy now. That's having to carry the weight of that. And
you got nothing. They got nothing from the portal. Nothing. Zero.
I think that's a fair assessment. Jimmy Bell. I mean, I would say Jimmy Bell.
But he's not good enough against the top 7 teams in the conference, Steve. Like, I know he can spell Tolu for now. In non-conference, he was effective enough. And I don't know how Jans did that. I got to give him major props on navigating that whole thing. But he's really a 6 to 8 minute guy. I mean, the Auburns, even Ole Miss at Ole Miss, I don't know if he'll play better at home, and maybe there's a little bit. But the Bamas, the Auburns, the Tennessees, the Kentuckys, he's not effective, Steve.
And that's fair. But, there's a lot of guys out there stepping up from mid-majors or guys that were reserves at Power 5 programs are going to be overwhelmed by that level of talent. But yeah, I mean, to your point, though, I mean, if that's the biggest contribution you get from the portal, it wasn't a portal successful season, right? I think we can all agree with that. Jimmy Bell is a good quality reserve and did some big things for State in non-conference. But yeah, I mean, now that it's time to go, I mean, can you really count on him? But
that's why Murphy, he's what you and I see in college basketball, Steve. Athletic. He can actually face up and hit a jumper from 15. They don't have anybody that can do that at his size. That's not Tolu's game, as you know. So he adds an element and a layer to your offense, and I know he does on defense. I mean, all right, what's your best guess? Does he play, I don't know, 7 to 10 minutes against Georgia Wednesday?
Well, you may need him to. I mean, I think that's the situation you're in now is you got to think about the season. I mean, we can talk about, well, I don't want to compromise my principles. And again, I don't know all the details behind his absence. I just know that he is progressively, he was gone for a while. The next thing you know, he's on the bench. He's in street clothes. Now, all of a sudden, he's dressing, going through warm-ups. And, the bigger obligation is your job, right? I mean, it's the season. It's your job to go out there and win games. And there are a lot of people, let's just be honest, Mississippi State fans are very fickle when it comes to men's basketball. It just has been. I mean, that's just kind of how things have been really since Stansbury retired. And, we had a couple of games and maybe one good season with Ben Howe, and you get people engaged. But even then, the attendance wasn't there. But the attendance has been there this year.
It has.
This is not on the fans. This is not on the atmosphere. It's not on a commitment from the fans. You've had several fans and big donors that have stepped up on the NIL side to help bring this thing along. But I think you're in a precarious situation right now because state fans are not getting the return on their investment right now. And, schedule's supposed to ease up a little bit, but on the men's side, there's never a night off in this conference.
No,
ever.
You don't ever know. You're exactly right. Kind of eyeballing Missouri. Steve Robertson, genespage.com. I'm the favorite on that board. 247 Sports joining us on the Farm Bureau Insurance guest line. I mean, Steve, I don't think they can make the tournament without Murphy. I think he's got to be a 10 to 15 minute a game player sooner than later. You mentioned the 4 games. I mentioned the 4 games. Can they go 4-0? I'm not that confident. Can they go 3-1? I think they can. If they do go 4-0, then we'll all be praising Chris Jans as the greatest thing since sliced bread, like most people think he is, and they should. I'm trying to think of what else we want to hit here. You mentioned Davis coming off the bench. I just was that impressive against Ole Miss? Yeah, I think he's more of a G5 player. Somebody's going to have to help Hub shoot the ball. And I keep thinking that Shaq has it in him, but he is streaky, Oh,
yeah. And there's some games he'll disappear, and other games you're like, oh, that's the guy I wanted to see. But
right.
Kind of your point, Chris Jans will have a game plan capable of beating every team on a schedule. It's just going to be a matter of can this group execute it? Is the talent level there? And you mentioned, you got the road trip to Missouri, who has really, really struggled this year. But, we've taken some pretty good teams to Missouri and come home with a loss when we've been the better team, So, and again, until this team wins a road game, that's going to be like that little albatross, right? I mean, it's going to be one of those things you look at, and it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy, right? Until you break the seal on that, it's one of those things that just kind of hangs around your neck like an anchor. You've got to find a way to go get that done.
Yeah.
You get some confidence when you get to put on that dark jersey and go on the road.
All right. We'll see about Keyshawn Murphy playing against Georgia. I don't know if Jans can. I think I know. I bet you do too. I think I know most of the story, but this is going to be interesting to see if they can get on the same page or if Jans can flush it enough to play him. I think he's the key on whether you punch your ticket to the dance. We're visiting with Steve Robertson on the Out of Bounds Show, ESPN 105.9 The Zone, brought to you by the amazing wings and tacos at Two Brothers in Starkville, Mississippi. All right, Steve, let's go to maybe a little bit more positive talk. Mississippi State baseball. You and I both love it, grew up on it and all that. You don't even miss a game usually. So Gerangelo Sanjay, you predicted that he would be the number 1 starter. You got Bradley Lofton. You got some other guys that are Dome. You got some other guys in the mix, but he's the ambidextrous young phenom who didn't really pitch that much like most of these guys in high school, was more the infielder and so on. So what are you hearing, and do you still believe that he'll be the number 1 guy when we get this thing going in, what is it, a little less than 2 weeks?
Yeah. We're about 12 days away now, and he's been really good, and he was good over the weekend. I'm still curious to see what they do with Nate Dome, because Nate's capable of being a starter and get you 6 or 7 innings, but who do you have on the back end? I think Cam Schulke's a guy that it's been a bit up and down since he's been here. You know, he's a guy that throws some 3-angle slots and arm slot, and lit up the Cape. You know, he was the strikeout leader in the Cape Cod. And so I haven't really seen that so far since he's been here. So I'm curious to see kind of is he the bridge guy? Is Stone Simmons the closer? I mean, there's still some things you got to figure out, but I think Gerangelo's in the mix. Cal Steven has been outstanding, and that's a transfer that's coming from Purdue. I think he's easily a weekend starter, and watching him, just the confidence he has now has been great. But I tell you, a young guy that I don't know that people are really talking about is Luke Dotson. That guy is really, really good. He's a two-way guy. You know, he's a guy that can play and swing the bat for you. But, you know, pitching-wise, he has been really good as of late. So I think the pieces are there. It's just, you know, Justin Parker's got to just kind of figure out how to put this thing together. And I think in the beginning they'll probably be closer by committee until they have the guy that they have some confidence in. But, you know, Carson Liggins, a guy, too, it's been really good. Some of the players tell me he's one of the most difficult guys they face when they have these scrimmages and things like that. But they've been real careful with him because he had some arm trouble last year. But, you know, have you done enough in the portal? I think you have. Now it's, you know, you're going to have one of the better offenses in the country and in the conference. Defensively, you're better. It's going to boil down to how far this pitching can take you. But I've got a lot of confidence in Justin Parker, and the kids do too. So now it's just going to be about settling those roles and kind of moving forward. But I do think State's starting pitching is going to be markedly better than it was the last 2 years.
All right, give me your 1, 2, and 3, Friday, Saturday, Sunday.
Yeah, if I was filling out the lineup card today, if I had to pick it, I don't know that Lamonos will do this. I would go Gerangelo and then Nate Dome and Cal Steven. But that depends on where Carson Liggins is. But I kind of like the whole prospect of Nate being able to throw twice on a weekend, too. You know what I'm saying? So, like, his Friday night, does he come out there and give you a couple of innings, maybe he can come back and give you a couple on Sunday? You know, I like the freedom of that because, you know, that's the thing about Nate Dome is he's so versatile. And you saw it last year. He can work in a closer's role. He can work in long relief. He can work in as a starter. And so that guy is a real luxury for you. But how you utilize him in many respects will impact the staff in a number of ways. But I think I would put him out there as a starter and kind of hope somebody can come along here on the backside. And I tell you, you know, Brooks Auger has been really good, too, in long relief. And so, again, I'm encouraged by the pieces. You know, last year it was kind of like you start thinking, hey, we're Mississippi State baseball. Maybe we got a little too fat, celebrated a national championship in 22, and we didn't have the leadership we had with Rowdy and TA, and that's all true. And I think last year we thought, okay, that's just an anomaly. And then all of a sudden you look up and you have to fire Scott Foxhall during the season because the pitching is so woefully inadequate. But I think with Parker's enthusiasm and his new system, and I tell you the one thing that I think is so important to understand for fans, Parker, number one, is an alpha dog. He's not just, you know, everybody's favorite uncle. It's going to go out there and pat you on the butt and say good job.
Thank God.
He's going to go get in some people. But early in the season last year, you know, he's starting these exercises and things like that. One of the things he told me is guys weren't using the slope of the mound. Like they were fighting it a little bit instead of embracing that and getting downhill and getting better extension. And that was kind of awkward for those guys. You see them now, you know, now they've had a few months into this. Everybody's delivery, for the most part, is a lot smoother. It's a lot more athletic. There's not all this wasted motion. The deliveries aren't as loud. You know, as a lot of times, like Casey Hunt, love that kid to death, but there are times you look at him, it's almost like he's fighting it. You know, it's like it's all arm because he doesn't believe in the slope of the mound. But when you see like Nate Dome, and Nate even told me, he said when Justin Parker first got here, he goes, I don't understand how you throw as hard as you do because you got to clean up some things mechanically. Well, now, you know, Nate might have picked up, you know, a half mile an hour, maybe one beat on the fastball. But when you look at it now, it's much more of a controlled delivery.
Well, it's not as much stress on his arm. And
absolutely.
Yeah. I mean, well, I'm more cautiously optimistic than you are, regardless of kind of what sport, what we're talking about. Justin Parker could really be the game changer for the program. I mean, there's talent on the roster. So you just went over those guys, and I find it all right. So if that's the case on the 1, 2, 3, I kind of like what you're doing with Dome, allowing him to throw twice on a weekend. And I can't wait to see what Stone and Auger have too coming back. But But so where does that leave you with Bradley Lofton if he's not?
I think what I tell you what I would do. I would probably have Bradley start out on Tuesday, and then because we saw that last year. I mean, this guy's got killer stuff, and he had the had the ailment he had to deal with, had some things cleaned up, but he's the guy that I think maybe you move into the weekend as the season goes along. And I think again that kind of speaks to the depth of this team. Bradley Lofton is a dude, and I don't think a lot of our fans fully understand that. That guy is outstanding. That guy has first-round talent. It's just you didn't see a completely healthy Bradley Lofton last year because he didn't walk all these guys in high school. I mean, he was a guy that sometimes experimented with pitches just to see if he could get guys to chase. But he could be a real X factor too. I think I start him out on Tuesdays and kind of get him ready, kind of get him going, and then as the season goes on, if I'm not getting what I want to out of my Saturday or Sunday guy, then I can move Lofton there. And again, that's a freedom that maybe you didn't have at times last year.
Okay. All right. Any lineup news that you have or something that's piqued your interest within the last 7 days as far as what people could see next weekend?
Well, I think Logan Kohler is probably the most solid third baseman State's had probably in a decade or more.
Wow.
He had a ball get to his legs on Saturday, and Lamonis is out there on the field. And I love to see my coaches coach. You know what I'm saying? There's a lot of guys who just fill out a lineup card and just kind of let it all spin. But Kohler, as great as he's been since he's been here, that's just an inexcusable play. And then there's Lamonis barking at him. It's like, hey, why are we running from the baseball? Why are we not getting in front of the baseball? And this is a guy that's got, this is a senior, right? And so I was glad to see that. And Kohler responds. The next thing you know, there's a ball, hit to his right side towards the line, and he backhands it and comes up and fields it clean, throws a strike to first base. I think the thing with Mississippi State this year, fans last year, anytime a ball was hit to the left side, they held their breath. You're not going to have to do that this year. And I think David Mershon is going to be your starting shortstop. I think Dylan Cupp plays a lot. But I understand Dylan Cupp is a guy that's got a first-round defensive grade on him. That guy is absolutely phenomenal. The bat's been better than we expected. But I think you're going to see a combo of Larry, Cupp, and Mershon all playing a little bit. Larry's going to be your leadoff guy, but he could also be a guy that DHs at times, and maybe you move some things around to get Cupp some experience. But, it's been interesting. I think we know what the lineup is going to be. At least we know what the defensive lineup is going to be. I'm not sure we know what the batting order is going to be. But it probably be, I would say Larry, Mershon, Jordan, and Hunter Hines are probably your top four. Maybe you throw Kohler in there fifth and Bryce Chance sixth because he's got a little clutch in him. But it's interesting. Where will Connor Hyzak fit? I mean, Connor Hyzak's another guy that could be a double-digit home run guy. So,
all right. It's right around the corner. Dudy Noble Field, Steve Robertson, genespage.com, getting you loaded up with recruiting and covering all the teams. Steve, appreciate it, man. Thank you.
See you, bud.
He joined us on the Farm Bureau Insurance guest line. I didn't think I went too negative there. Did you think so, Jason?
No, I don't.
I got a text that I did.
Well, everybody's going to say that any time in the show.
I actually thought it was kid glove a little bit. They just got beat by 30.
Yeah.
I think Keyshawn Murphy, he's got to be a piece of the puzzle. 10 to 15 minutes a game down the stretch. Probably going to have a couple of games where you're going to need him 18 to 25-ish minutes to get where you want to go. Hour number 3 coming up.